Hello, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about finding your life purpose. What is your life purpose? Are you living your life purpose? These can be questions that trigger some anxiety in people, including me once upon a time. So I wanted to throw together a few reframes that may help you reframe this a bit. Hopefully this video will provide some clarity, some relief, and maybe help to take some of the pressure off. Before we get started, be sure and hit that subscribe button if you want to have more videos around personal development, creativity, and intentional living. It would mean so much to me in my brand new baby channel. Thank you so much for your support. And with that, let's get started. The single biggest thing holding you back from your life purpose might be the belief that it is just one thing. For some people, it very well may be one thing. I call these people specialists. They have this one thing that they really are drawn to, maybe even since the time they are a child. They're just kind of like one-track mind. They have one thing they're totally obsessed with. It's like what they've always wanted to do. That's great. I feel like our culture at this point really romanticizes that notion, maybe really perpetuates this idea of destiny, fate, finding the one thing you're meant to do. So for some people, it can be one thing. You very well may be a specialist. For others, it might be many things, or it might be more of a process where you shift, adapt, grow, and change your purpose. For that reason, I want you to consider the following reframes. Number one, living your purpose does not have to look any certain way. I feel like when it comes to cultural ideals and beliefs, I think a lot of us allow these ideas and beliefs to take up space in our brain and to not even recognize that really maybe they are not serving us. Maybe it's just something that you heard somewhere or that you picked up. We can pick up beliefs from anywhere. We can pick it up from our family, our friends, from the culture at large. We carry around these ideas that take up space in our brain, basically living rent-free in our head, that may not be serving us. I think a lot of these exist around life purpose. Just rest assured that your life purpose and living your purpose, living your fate or destiny does not have to look any certain way. Number two, you can pursue many things rather than just one, whether it be simultaneously or one at a time. There is this amazing TED Talk by a woman named Emily Wapnick. I'm going to link that below. It is totally worth a watch or a listen. I've definitely adopted it as a way to classify myself. There's sort of this pattern that exists where we see something that really sparks our curiosity, like hardcore curiosity, and we just dive in head first and just go hard on this one subject. This period of time could last weeks, months, years, who knows? So we dive in, we may get really good at it or good enough, whatever our standard of wanting to understand is. And then all of a sudden, this feeling of boredom creeps in and it's like, okay, I think I've got this. I need to move on to something else. Gary Vee also talks a lot about this, Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's either an ENTP or an ENFP. Anyway, I watched one of his shorter form videos, I believe it was on Instagram, where he talked about myths around burnout. And I agree with this. It really changed my awareness. And he talked about how people all of a sudden are talking about how to overcome burnout. And he said something that really stuck with me. He said, sometimes it's not burnout. Maybe it's sometimes just a big effing sign that you need to move on, that you're done doing whatever it was you were doing before. You don't need more vacation time. You don't need a break. You just need to find something else to do. I don't know what Emily Wapnick's type is, but I'm willing to bet it's an NP. And I'm also willing to bet that this trait is more common in intuitive perceivers. I'm an intuitive judger. I'm an INFJ. A lot of my shadow functions tend to be really, really strong. I am also an Enneagram 4 Wing 5, so you can kind of see how maybe that might flavor my tendencies a little bit differently than a lot of other INFJs. Anyway, Emily talks about in her video this tendency to assign the label of bad, wrong, abnormal to this tendency to jump around, to many different things. Based on our cultural preference at the moment, we tend to worry that something's wrong with us, or that we're unable to commit or unable to see things through. Again, that narrow focus is highly romanticized by our current culture, and it's something that does not apply to everyone. There are many benefits to being this way, and Emily talks about it in her TED Talk. She calls them superpowers, basically fantastic idea generators. Our world is facing a ton of complex, highly complicated problems, and we need creative problem solvers. Because of our interest in so many different things, we take lessons from all of those things and create sort of this intersectionality, where you can take a lesson from one thing and apply it to something else where other people haven't thought about thinking of it in such a way. We also tend to be very rapid learners. This definitely applies to me. Part of it is that hunger and that desire to learn. And so we're just seeking out more information very quickly. Also, I think it's just because we're simply very comfortable at being a beginner, because we've done it so much. We've started down a new path so many times, and there's value to that. We also tend to be highly adaptive and in quick changing environments, which definitely would be a word that I would characterize our world right now. Things are constantly shifting, changing, and things happen very quickly. Adaptability is a fantastic skill that is highly underrated, in my humble opinion. So yeah, like I said, I will link her TED Talk below. Next, let's normalize changing directions at any time. Now, I realize this is not always practical, especially if we're talking about ways to support yourself. There are ways around this. Just like Gary Vaynerchuk said, it may not be burnout, it may just be divine boredom that's telling you, hey, it's time to move on. I know we've talked about the current cultural ideal kind of romanticizing, specializing in one thing, but did you know that way back in the day, back during the Renaissance period, the cultural ideal back then was to be well-versed in many, many different things. Cultural ideals are fluid though. You should not necessarily take those on as your own because they don't always align with our own internal values. Just be free to be you and develop discernment to realize when you're taking something on that is more of a cultural ideal and not your own value system. And finally, here's another reframe that was extremely helpful to me. And that is to think about living your life's purpose in terms of a process rather than a destination. There's no endedness to it. It's something that shifts, adapts, and grows with you. We're always having new experiences and gaining new awareness, new passions. Our new experiences give us skills in areas that can help people. For example, I got cancer a couple years ago, and that's not something I ever planned on, but it has given me a knowledge base that has allowed me to help a lot of people. If you would like to see my cancer story, I can link that. I'm not savvy enough to know which direction to point, but I'll link that. It's on my other channel. But when you think of life purpose more as a journey, oh gosh, that sounds so trite and cliche, but it's true. A journey more than a destination. There's no endedness to it. Now, I'm an INFJ and I like endedness, y'all. I love finding the future I want. Ooh, I see that over there. That's what I want. And then kind of reverse engineering my way there. I love to have a goal and an endpoint and finishing, checking it off the list. That is my jam. I tell you that hopefully, so this will carry a little bit more weight because I like endedness. But living your purpose can actually look more like a process than a point of arrival. That process may look like discovering and knowing more about yourself, understanding your true nature, being authentic, lining up your life in a way that matches up with what you value and what you're good at. Having that internal awareness and realizing that too is not a process that ever ends. Creating more freedom for yourself. This could consist of something like getting out of debt. I'm not a personal finance guru, but I did grow up with Dave Ramsey 1.0, and that was my dad, who is an ENTJ. So I come from a lot of privilege, though. I recognize that. But it was constantly hammered into me, debt is bad. I realize a lot of you did not have a choice. You just used debt to get through college or to achieve your goals. I would encourage you to find a way to break free from that, because it severely limits your options. And if you are a multi-potentialite, it severely limits your ability to shift. On that same page, it is very helpful to have a savings account. Multi-potentialites, more than anyone, need to have a cushion, okay? If you find yourself in a job that is hazardous to your health or that you are just really not enjoying, you don't have the means to quit if you're in debt and have no safety net. Like I said, that's not my area of expertise. One channel that's really good at this is Lydia Sen. I will link her below. She paid off tons of debt on like a combined income. I think it's somewhere around $30,000 if she and her husband combined, and they paid off just a phenomenal amount of debt just by living simply. Another quality of looking at this as a journey is to recognize that healthy boundaries are the gateway to freedom, to people having their needs met, to healthy relationships. Practice those healthy boundaries in life, in work, in romantic relationships and friendships with your family. Learn where you end and another person begins, and learn where you're willing to state like, hey, that's not really what I need or what I would like to see happen. Learn how to state that plainly, respectfully. That will take you a long way. Also, don't forget to explore and play. Leave some margins in your life, and it's really helpful to have that freedom to be able to have downtime. Just explore and play, and watch out for things where you feel that pull. You multi-potentialites will know what I'm talking about. Where you feel the pull, you see something or someone and you just like get pulled in. You have to allow space and margins for that to even be a possibility. I argue once again that there is no end to living your purpose. For a lot of us, even if you are a specialist or a multi-potentialite, it can look a lot more like a process and a state of being rather than this endedness, this endpoint. Have the courage to be exactly who you are. The world needs you, the real you, with all your innate gifts, talents, perspective. The world needs you. You are a piece of the larger puzzle. I would love to hear from you guys. Are you a specialist or a multi-potentialite? Maybe you've been both at some point. Sometimes a multi-potentialite can look like a specialist for a period of time. Leave me a comment and let me know. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Your support means the world to me. If you'd like to see more videos on intentional living, personal development, and creativity, give my channel a subscribe. I would love to have you, and it would be an honor. All right, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you in the next